Okay, think we have everybody in. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar, our board orientation webinar. My name is Danielle Frederick and I'm the new business development manager for Kirkpatrick Management. So just a couple of announcements before we get started with the presentation. You should on your screen somewhere, maybe at the bottom or the top, depending on what kind of device you're on, but you should see a Q&A button. If you have a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A button to put your question in. And we have a couple of our regional managers on the call who will be answering those throughout the presentation, and Stephanie may answer some as well throughout the presentation. Our next seminar will be June 8th at noon. So go ahead and put that on your calendars. More information to come on that. But it will be involving an attorney panel. So we'll have a couple of the attorneys that we partner with on the call, and we'll be talking about amendments, annual meetings, other legal issues that we've been seeing come up. So that'll be a really good one. It's June 8th at noon. So make sure you get that on your calendar, and we'll send out an invitation for that closer to the time. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to do a little bit of a KMC trivia. So employees, you're ineligible to participate, but if the first person to answer correctly in the Q&A, using the Q&A only, you will get a Visa gift card. Okay, so everybody get ready. Here's the question. The question is, how long has Kirkpatrick Management been in business? First person to answer correctly in the Q&A will win. And that was really fast. Kitten Gerhardt, you are the winner. You guessed right. So we've been in business 50 years this year. Last weekend, we threw a big party, celebrated with a lot of our employees and the Kirkpatrick family. We had a great time, and we just want to say thank you guys for partnering with us and being part of our team and making this a successful business for so many years. So I'm sure we will have lots of pictures posted from our party on social media. So make sure you follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook so that you can see that. But Kitten Gerhardt, we will get you your Visa gift card in the mail. So thank you. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker. Today, Stephanie Soroky will be doing the presentation. She is one of our regional managers, and she is what I like to refer to as a girl boss. So Stephanie's been in the industry for 13 years. She moved to Indiana about 6 years ago to be closer with family, and that's when she joined KMC. Last year, she earned her PCAM designation, which is the highest designation you can get in property management. So we're very lucky to have Stephanie be part of our team. She has 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and then 5 grandchildren, including a set of twins who are 2 years old.
Almost
2
18 months.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephanie so she can start the presentation.
Great. Danielle, thank you very much. Thank you all and welcome. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day, out of your lunch for this presentation. So today we're going to be talking about board orientation, or as I like to call it, board leadership 101. So as Danielle said, I've been with KMC for about 6 years. I've been in the industry for about 13 years and doing multifamily management for a lot longer than that. So I'm a regional manager, so I have a small portfolio of my own, and then I manage a team of managers who manage your properties. You know, collectively, we all bring a lot of experience to the table, and hopefully you'll walk away with a little bit of something today. So let's get right into this. What is a community association and why do people live here? So, you know, there are a lot of reasons why people choose to live in community associations. There are benefits such as, you know, the common areas of the property are managed, whether it's a hybrid HOA or a condominium, manage the interests of the owners, provide services, and certainly to develop a sense of community through social activities and amenities provided. So your association is set up by a set of governing documents, typically articles of incorporation, CC&Rs or covenants, and then your bylaws. So those provide the legal structure and the operational structure for the association. They define the rights and the obligations of both the association and the owners. So the governing documents are a binding relationship between the owner and association. Membership is automatic when you buy into a community association. The governing documents establish the way the association is governed and how the association is funded. Because for most associations, the only source of funding is from assessments earned or paid by the homeowners. And then last but not least, the association's governing documents set up the rules and the standards that protect the owners and the community at large. They're designed to enhance property values, and they promote harmonious living within the community. So there is a hierarchy of governing documents. So there's a little diagram here that kind of shows that as a pyramid. So at the top of that pyramid, we've got the recorded MAT, otherwise known as a plat or a plan. Some of the older documents actually have plat covenants embedded within the plats itself. Immediately under that would be the declarations, otherwise known as the CC&Rs. That's followed by the incorporation, articles of incorporation, the bylaws, and then last but not least at the bottom would be any board resolutions. Now there are also local, state, and federal laws that will take precedence over your governing documents. For example, the federal flag law, or there are laws governing when residents may put up and have to take down political signs. So those will all supersede things that may be already embedded within your governing documents. Another one might be parking regulations. So some of your governing documents might include statements that say you can't park large vehicles on the street overnight. Well, if they're city streets, then city laws would take precedence over all of that. So this is a really great, great chart to refer to. Sometimes you'll find that your documents actually have conflicting language. Your bylaws might say you need to have 3 people, and your declarations might say you need to have 5 people on the board. So this hierarchy helps you determine which one of those documents is going to take precedence over the other. All right, so how do we pay for the things that are needed within our association? That's set up by community fees or assessments. They might be paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, depending on what your documents say or what the board has established. And fees will cover common costs like landscaping and maintenance of common areas, snow removal, trash collection potentially, street lining, might pay for amenities like your pool, your tennis court, golf course, perhaps social activities, security patrol, insurance, et cetera. So any number of fees, management fees go into that, utilities, all of that is paid for by means of the assessments paid by the homeowners. Your governing documents will also establish how fees should be charged to the homeowners. So whether those get charged equally to all homeowners or by percentage. So always refer to your governing documents. The percent interest can be a little bit trickier to calculate. Our system will make that really easy for you. But just know that when you do have something like a percent interest, you can't necessarily raise everybody's fees by a flat $10. You might have to raise them by a percentage. So one person might get a slightly larger increase than another. But your manager can help talk you through all of that if you have any questions. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about community governance, because your communities are mini governments, like little towns of their own. So like a town, everybody has their own role that they have to play. So owners have the obligation to follow the restrictions that are in the governing documents. They have to elect the board members. Owners have the power to amend the declarations and or the bylaws. Now, in some cases, because every set of documents is different, the board may have the power to amend the bylaws without a vote of the membership, but definitely check on that if you have any changes that you want to make. And then last but not least, owners are obligated to share in the financial operation of the association. by paying their assessments on time. When you guys are developing your budgets, you're developing budgets that balance to zero. So every penny is accounted for. So it's really important that homeowners understand their obligation, that when they don't pay their assessments on time or at all, it negatively impacts the services that the board is able to provide to the association long term. Okay, so then you have the board of directors. The board is typically comprised of several officers, including to start the president. So the president is the CEO of the association. He represents the board before the membership, so typically leads the annual meeting. The president will set the meeting agendas and presides at board meetings. The president has the power to execute legal documents on behalf of the association. So once the board collectively approves a contract, the president is the one who signs that contract, and then working with the manager, make sure that that is followed through. The president may have the right to select or nominate committee chairs, depending on what your governing documents say. And then last but not least, he or she is responsible for ensuring that all board resolutions and decisions are carried out. So working directly with your property manager to make sure that when you guys decide what you want to do about painting and carpentry and concrete and all of those projects, that we get those taken care of for you. Next up is the vice president. Not all associations have VPs, but when you do, they usually assume the duties of the president whenever the president can't attend a meeting. They may share some of the burdens of the president. In other words, the VP may be the chair of the architectural committee, or they may chair an ad hoc committee that the board decides to convene. And then if you have staff, then the vice president might be assigned as a liaison to those staff members or to deal with specific projects or contractors. So there is a support role to the president. Next is the secretary. Secretary attends board meetings, special meetings, and annual meetings. Secretary has the responsibility of informing residents and members of upcoming meetings. Of course, if you have a manager, we can send that information out for you as well. Make sure that the community manager maintains official records of the association, including correspondence, contracts, membership rosters, etc. Maybe most importantly, the secretary keeps the minutes of the board meetings. Very important that you guys have good and detailed minutes, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then if you're interested, there is a length of time that associations have to keep all documents. That is covered under Indiana Code 2317-27-1. So it goes into great detail about how long you have to keep all of those documents. As an example, minutes are required to be kept for a minimum of 3 years. Distribution of all documents, including minutes, is really essential. Making sure that minutes get approved and distributed to the community in a timely manner is really important. Unfortunately, not all homeowners choose to participate in board meetings or attend board meetings to learn what's going on. So the only way they know sometimes about what's happening is with those minutes. And then perhaps last but not least, the secretary records votes. So when you're keeping minutes, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of who makes a motion, who seconds the motion, specifically what that motion is for, and then finally, what was the outcome of the vote? Was it unanimous? Was it 3-2, 2-1? Did somebody abstain? So that's really important. The more detail that you have in those situations, the better. You know, Bob made a motion to approve the $10,000 contract for concrete repair from Acme Concrete Company. It was seconded by Tom. It was voted unanimously. Those types of that type of information is really important in your minutes because those are going to be the official record of the association. And then we have the treasurer. So the treasurer is responsible for assisting in the preparation of the annual budget, whether that is on their own or in conjunction with the property manager. The treasurer makes sure that all financial transactions are documented. Now, as your management company, we take care of a lot of this for you. We receive your incoming assessments, we pay your bills, we create monthly financial reports for you. So in that case, the treasurer is really responsible for kind of overseeing us and double checking our work. The treasurer, working in conjunction with the manager, will recommend actions to the board for collections for delinquent accounts. And then last but not least, they'll authorize an independent audit if and when your governing documents require that. Okay, and then we have the members at large. So the members at large are any other board members who do not hold one of those roles that we just went through. Oftentimes that's a first-year board member, so it's a chance to kind of get their feet wet serving on the board. Members at large do vote at meetings. All board members vote at meetings, and contrary to popular belief, presidents do not have extra voting power over other board members. Presidents also do not have to abstain from voting just because they're the president. And then last but not least, the member at large will also oversee often special projects, events, and may participate in the upkeep of amenities. So a member at large might be your clubhouse coordinator, for example. Okay. The next person who kind of fits into this whole governance hierarchy is the community association manager. That's us. So we're here to provide diligent and faithful service. We serve you. Our goal is to help you be successful in managing and running your associations. We are going to disclose any matter that presents a potential conflict of interest, whether it's for us or for the board. So if something comes across our desk, we're going to make sure that we make you aware of that. We're always going to do our very best to use care, diligence, and our skills to the very best of our abilities. We will, again, always do our best to represent the association professionally, whether we're dealing with owners, business partners, government officials, vendors, etc. We work to make sure that we have all of your permits, your maintenance logs, licenses, it's pool permit season. So we're keeping track of all of that for you. We're going to do our best to avoid acting in conflict with the interests of the community association. And we are also going to avoid trying to delegate or assume more authority than we have received from the board. So having those conversations about expectations is really important. I always like to tell my boards, I can do as much or as little as you need me to. We just need to know, where those guidelines fall. Okay, so you put all these pieces together and you can see we've kind of created a little bit of a puzzle. So all of these different members and the manager, we all work together in conjunction and hopefully in harmony in most cases for the betterment of the association. As managers, we do our best, like I said, to bring things to your attention, to share our concerns, to make sure that you have the information that you need to make informed decisions at all times. But this is a partnership. And the best partnerships are the ones where, we all get to share equally. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about board meetings. So whether you're meeting once a quarter, once a month, a couple of times a year, there's some tips and tricks for having a successful board meeting. We should prepare an agenda and have that dispersed to the board about a week ahead of the meeting. That gives everybody kind of a chance, first of all, to weigh in if there's something that needs to be added to the agenda, but also to kind of prep so that when we get into that meeting, we can have an effective and efficient meeting. We'll make sure that we have your financials and your management report to you about 48 hours before the meeting. That's our job as managers. Now, if you're having meetings in the very first week of the month, the financials might be a little bit more of a challenge, but we'll always do our best to get those to you as soon as possible. Our ask of the board is that everybody has a chance to read the information before the meeting. Again, the more prepared everybody is coming into the meeting, the more efficiently we can conduct the meeting. General rule of thumb for how long meetings should last. HOA meetings generally about an hour. COA condo meetings generally about 90 minutes. Now, sometimes they'll last a little bit longer because you've got a lot more going on. And sometimes you might be in and out in a lot faster time period. A homeowner participation. This is always a big question. Homeowners per Indiana law are allowed to attend board meetings. You don't necessarily have to advertise board meetings, but homeowners are allowed to attend board meetings. And oftentimes boards like to set aside time either at the beginning or the end of the meeting for homeowner questions. It's a good opportunity for them to really learn what's going on in the community and again, to get those questions answered. Once the business part of the meeting starts, homeowners are supposed to remain silent. Again, this is a business meeting of a corporation. duration. So, they can attend, they can listen, but we do ask that, to allow us to get the business done, that they do remain silent for the duration of the meeting. And when it comes time for a vote, only board members get to vote at board meetings. Stick to the agenda. I know sometimes things will come up at the very last minute, or somebody will think of something in the middle of the meeting. It's okay to bring those things up, but most often bring it up for the purpose of, can we put this on the agenda for the next meeting? Again, there's a lot of information to cover and a lot of groundwork to do in a 60 to 90 minute time frame. So unfortunately, things that come in out of the blue, don't often have time to just explore those to the full extent that we need to. It's a business meeting. So while I understand that as board members, this might be the only chance you guys get together. As much as I would love to be able to make it a social hour, this is a business meeting, and we really do need to focus on the business at hand. Might be a little bit of time before or after for a little bit of more casual chit chat, but we really should try to make it as business-like as possible during the meeting. And then there's executive session. So business for the meetings is conducted in front of the homeowners, but there are some sensitive issues that really cannot be discussed in detail in front of homeowners. And that's what executive session is for. So most often what happens is that the board will do their business, their open business ahead, at the beginning of the meeting. They will adjourn to executive session towards the end. At that point in time, owners who are in the meeting are usually dismissed, and then they can reconvene to close the meeting out afterwards. So the things that you can talk about in executive session are delinquencies, legal issues. Obviously, that's not the type of thing that you want to discuss openly in front of other homeowners. Contract negotiations. Now, that doesn't mean reviewing bids, but once you've selected a vendor, if you're going through the nitty-gritty of the contract, that would be an executive session appropriate discussion. And then if you're an association that has employees, you would also want to discuss employment concerns or issues in the midst of executive session. Executive session, as I said, is private. So we tend to record decisions upon return to regular session. And you do have to be a little bit careful. This is where the secretary has to be a little cagey. You don't want to say, we're going to turn Mr. Smith over to collections. You might want to refer to that particular address by account number, or you can say, at the manager's recommendation, 5 accounts are going to be turned over to collections. That would be a good way to record those types of decisions. Okay. Let's move on to the duties for the board of directors. So there are 4 essential duties for the board of directors, and we're going to get into these in a little bit more detail. You have the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, the duty of obedience, and finally, the duty of confidentiality. So what does all of that mean? Duty of care requires a board member to make decisions in good faith, in the best interest of the association, and prudently. So good faith. Act with honesty, fairness, and good intentions. It's not always as easy as it seems. The boardroom is not a place where we need to take out personal grievances against neighbors in the community. You should be looking at the greater interests of the community. As board members, not everybody's always going to agree on everything, and that's fine. Some of my best board meetings are the ones where we get into a little bit of lively debate about a subject. But whether you agree with the decision or not, to the public, you should support those decisions. I mean, if they're made for the greater good, then you need to support those decisions for the public, even if you personally don't necessarily agree. No paybacks. Like I said, this is a professional setting in a situation. So when you come into a board meeting, you take off your owner hat, you take off your neighbor hat, and you've got to put on your board hat and treat everything as though it's a business decision. When you're making decisions, you need to do them for the best interest of the association. I mean, it's not uncommon for board members to get on the board and have an agenda, something that they are personally passionate about. That's great. But when it comes to the greater good of the community, sometimes you do have to set aside your self-interest for that big picture. Board decisions will be scrutinized. They're scrutinized all day, every day. And unfortunately, we live in a society that's very litigious. So it's really important to make those informed business decisions that are for the best interest of the entire association, and make sure they're documented. I mentioned earlier that minutes are a legal document. They are discoverable in a lawsuit situation. So you do want to make sure that those types of things are documented very carefully, but it is minutes, not hours. So you don't need to transcribe everything that happens at the meeting. Minutes should generally be a page or less when you get down to brass tacks there. Sorry, got off subject for a moment. And then finally, be prudent, ask questions, follow your governing documents to the very best of your ability, attend board meetings. Things come up, that's fine. If you can't attend at the last minute, that's fine, but absolutely make every effort to be there. And then last but not least, review your packet and come prepared for those discussions at the meetings. Okay. Duty of loyalty. You need to be loyal to the corporate entity of the association as it relates primarily to conflicts of interest. So a conflict of interest exists when a contract, a transaction, or another action taken by the association would financially benefit you directly as a director or somebody related to you. And what is a party related to a director? Well, a parent, grandparent, spouse, child, sibling, a spouse or descendant of the director's sibling, an estate or trust to which you have a beneficial interest, or an entity in which a director is a director or officer or has a financial interest. So basically, if you think that you're going to be tied back to this vendor, this decision, et cetera, just disclose that. Like, hey, yeah, this landscaping company that we're interviewing, they're owned by my nephew. Recuse yourself from the decision, disclose that to the rest of the board. And if they decide they want to proceed with that because this is a good vendor who gave them a good price, then that information has been disclosed. Hey. Duty of obedience. This is an easy one on the surface, harder in practice. Obey the governing documents and obey the laws. It's hard to obey the governing documents to the absolute letter of the document. A lot of your docs are old and outdated because it's hard to update documents. So you do the best that you can. I have an association whose documents require trash cans have to be put away out of sight. Well, that was great 30 years ago when everybody had a single metal trash can that they dragged out to the curb on trash day. Now everybody has two giant 90-gallon roll-off containers, and those don't fit very well in a two-car garage. So sometimes you have to make a few concessions just for practicality, but you really do have to try to manage the governing documents and manage by the governing documents as best as you possibly can. I always say be fair, firm, and consistent. Take personal decisions out of things, and last but not least, just be very careful. Be careful what you say and how you say it. We live in a very sensitive society right now, and things said in innocence can be taken very wrongly. And nobody wants to have to defend a fair housing lawsuit. So if you're doing your best to follow the governing documents and obey the laws, you'll be in good shape. Okay, and then we have the duty of confidentiality. So when you're in those board meetings and you guys are talking about private things, it is not a good idea to go back and disclose those things to other people. Even disclosing something to a spouse who can then accidentally mention that to a friend while they're having coffee or playing tennis. Those things should remain private, and we need to be very careful to keep those things private. Okay. All right, liability protection. This is kind of a hot button issue these days. There are lots of ways that you can minimize your risk as a director of an association. Read and know your documents. I know they're not always easy to understand. They're written in a lot of legalese, but do your best to interpret those and ask for help when you need it. Keep good records. I mentioned this a couple of times. Make sure that your minutes are thorough, that they record all of your decisions appropriately. If you're making decisions outside of a meeting, make sure those get recorded in the minutes of the next meeting. Make decisions with a view towards the best interest of the many and not the few. I think, was it Captain Kirk or Spock who said that a few years ago? Diligently collecting assessments and enforcing covenants. I understand these are friends and neighbors. Sometimes they're even relatives living in the community, and hard times hit us all. We're in a difficult economic climate right now. Sometimes people have very good reasons for not being able to pay their assessments. And when they do, you have the ability as a board to work out a payment arrangement with them, but we shouldn't make assumptions because we know somebody or because we feel bad for them. Again, be fair, firm, and consistent, and always try to collect those assessments and enforce the covenants to the very best of your ability. Try not to make decisions based on emotions. I mean, we're human, emotion comes into it. But again, at the board table, you really kind of have to separate yourself and distance yourself for that and think what is really going to be the best thing for the overall association. This is a corporation, not a club. It is a business, and it is a multi-million-dollar business. Every single one of you are part of that. That's a pretty big burden to bear. So, if you treat it like a corporation, you'll be in good shape. Communicate effectively. This is a hard one. So whether it's communication from board members to board members, or board members to manager, or board members to homeowners, the better you communicate, the better things will be. We hear the word transparency a lot, maybe a little bit too much, but it's important to have information available to the homeowners. Nobody likes the conspiracy theories, and it's really hard once a board or the management company has earned that reputation of being secretive. It's really hard to kind of earn back the trust of the homeowners. So the more out there you are and the more you can share with the owners, the better educated they'll be, and the better understanding they will have of what's going on in the community. And then last but not least, partner with experts. I always like to say managers know a little bit about a lot of things, but we are not attorneys, we are not CPAs, we are not engineers, and we are not insurance agents. But we work with really, really good people. KMC has spent 50 years developing those relationships, and we work with really, really good people who will give you the advice you need. Sometimes it costs a little bit of money, but I always tell my boards, I would rather spend $200 now to get a legal opinion on something than $200,000 later trying to defend a lawsuit. So definitely use your experts to the very best of their ability. I promise you they will stand you in good stead. So little note on the bottom here, the Indiana Nonprofit Corporations Act, that's Indiana Code 23, provides indemnity protections for directors who are acting in good faith. As long as you are always acting in good faith, the business judgment rule will protect you. So you have to make the best decision you can in the moment with the information at hand. And you will always be protected under that rule. Okay. Well, that was quick. I guess I ran through that a little bit faster than I anticipated. Brian, do we have any questions? I'd like to open it up to questions. You guys can put everything in the Q&A if you'd like to. Do we have anything that came in that we need to answer?
Everything's been answered. Somebody's asking about Airbnbs and people having issues with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's been a very big thing in the last couple of years. Again, I'm going to say go to your governing documents. If you don't already have a rental restriction in your governing documents, the attorney can help you draft one. If that's something that you're interested in putting forward, they're not always easy to pass. Because you usually require a high number of residents to pass an amendment like that. But your attorney can definitely help you draft one. I'm working on one right now with one of my associations. And what the attorney has recommended is that you put on a limitation to how long somebody can own the property before they're able to rent it. So, that will eliminate the big box companies like American Homes for Rent who are trying to come in and turn things around. And then you can also build into that some restrictions on Airbnbs or those types of short-term rentals. Are there any other questions? My contact information is on here while Brian's trolling for questions. My contact information is on here. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me at ssoroky@ekirkpatrick.com. 317-558-5401 is my direct line. That rings right to my desk. What else do we got, Brian? Anything?
Is it illegal to keep homeowners out of the board meeting in Indianapolis is a question.
Yes, in Indiana, the Indiana code, I believe it's the not-for-profit code, although it might be the HOA Act, I'm not sure off the top of my head, requires board meetings to be open to homeowners, but you do not have to allow them to participate if you don't want to.
Will the presentation be made available to view later date for anyone who missed it today? Yes, it will be on the KMC Connect portal. I would assume within a few days.
Yeah, it'll also be on YouTube. You can go out to YouTube and type in KMC, and you will find links to prior presentations, and then upcoming presentations I'll get put out on YouTube as well.
Someone wants to talk about speed bumps.
Okay. It depends on whether you're in a condo or an HOA. If you're in an HOA with city streets, you're going to need to talk to the city. My guess is the answer on that's probably going to be no. They don't tend to enjoy speed bumps. In a condo association where you own the streets, speed bumps would be your decision. I have mixed feelings about them personally. I will tell you, snowplows hate them. So if you do put in speed bumps, just anticipate that there could be some potential damage to them in the winter in a heavy snow. But it can help slow down speeders in the community for sure. Let's see. All right, is that it? Gosh, everybody's kind of quiet today. I'm just scrolling through the questions one more time. All right, well, last call. If there are no final questions, then I guess I will give you back a few minutes of your day. I thank you all for attending. Again, my name is Stephanie Soroky. If you have any questions that come to you after the fact, make note of my email address and my phone number. Feel free to reach out to me. But thank you all for your time on this rather overcast day. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. And don't forget, our next seminar is coming up in June. We will be sending out more information on that very shortly. Thank you all.